My sister found Dad's secret, then she was gone. My sister died 3 days after she called me and said, "I found something Dad buried." At first, I thought she meant it literally. Our father had always been the kind of man who hid things in coffee cans and shoeboxes. Spare keys, cash, old photographs, receipts he didn't want anyone touching. So when my younger sister, Rebecca, whispered those words into the phone, I pictured her standing in Dad's garage, holding some rusted lockbox she had found behind the paint cans. But then she said, "It's about Mom." I sat up straighter. Our mother had died when I was 12 and Rebecca was 9. Car accident, rainy road, bad brakes. That was the story our father had told us for 26 years. "What about Mom?" I asked. Rebecca's breathing shook through the line. "I can't say it over the phone." That was the first thing that scared me. Rebecca was not dramatic, she was the steady one. The reasonable one. The sister who read instructions before assembling furniture and kept emergency candles in a labeled drawer. "If this is about Dad," I said, "just tell me." She went quiet. Then she said, "I think he lied to us our whole lives." The next sound I heard was a door closing somewhere behind her. "Rebecca, I have to go," she whispered. "Wait, where are you?" "At Dad's house." My stomach tightened. Our father had been dead for 6 weeks. Rebecca and I were still cleaning out his place in pieces, one room at a time, because grief had made both of us slow. "Get out of there," I said. "I'll call you tonight." She didn't. By morning, her phone went straight to voicemail. By the next afternoon, police officers were standing on my porch, telling me my sister had been found at the bottom of the basement stairs in our father's house. They said it looked like an accident. A fall. A terrible, ordinary fall. But when I asked if she had been holding anything, the officer hesitated. "What do you mean?" he asked. I thought of her voice. "I found something Dad buried." "A file," I said. "Papers, anything." He glanced down at his notebook. There was no file. That was when I knew someone had taken it. The funeral felt wrong from the moment I walked in. People cried the way people cry when they don't know what else to do. They hugged me, touched my shoulder, told me Rebecca was with Mom now. But I couldn't listen. All I could see was my sister in our father's basement, afraid enough to whisper, careful enough not to say too much, and dead before she could tell me the truth. After the service, my Aunt Ruth pulled me aside. She was Dad's older sister, sharp-eyed and cold in the way women become when they have survived too much and forgiven too little. "I'm sorry about Rebecca," she said. I nodded. She looked past me, toward the framed photo of my sister near the flowers. Then she said, "Some doors should stay closed." I stared at her. "What does that mean?" Her mouth tightened. "It means your father spent his life trying to protect you girls." "From what?" She touched my arm, but there was no comfort in it. "From knowing your mother too well." Then she walked away. That night, I went to Dad's house. I had not been inside since the police called me. The yellow tape was gone, but the air still felt disturbed, like the house knew something had happened and was pretending it didn't. I stood at the basement door for almost 5 minutes before I opened it. The stairs creaked under my feet. At the bottom, the concrete floor looked too clean. I searched the shelves, the old tool chest. The freezer Dad had stopped using years ago. The boxes marked Christmas, taxes, girls' school stuff. Nothing. Then I saw the scratch marks. They were on the wall behind the metal storage cabinet, fresh pale lines against old paint. I dragged the cabinet forward. Behind it was a square cut into the drywall, patched so neatly I would never have noticed it if Rebecca hadn't moved the cabinet first. My hands shook as I worked the edge loose with a screwdriver. Inside the wall was an empty space. No file, no papers, just one thing, a torn corner from a manila folder. On it, in my sister's handwriting, were 3 words: "Mom didn't crash." I sat back on the basement floor and stopped breathing like a normal person. For 26 years, Dad had told the same story. Mom had taken the old station wagon out during a storm. The brakes failed on County Road 18. The car went through the guardrail. She died before the ambulance arrived. He had cried when he told it. He cried every year on the anniversary. He kept her wedding ring in his dresser and her perfume bottle in the bathroom cabinet like a shrine. But Rebecca had found something that said the crash had never been the truth. The next morning, I called the police officer who had handled Rebecca's case. I told him about the hidden space. I told him about the torn folder. He listened politely, then asked, "Do you have the file?" "No." "Do you have proof someone entered the house after your sister?" "No." "Do you have reason to believe your sister didn't fall?" I looked at the basement stairs. The top step had a thin gouge in the wood like something heavy had scraped across it. "Yes," I said. "What reason?" "My sister was afraid." He sighed, not cruelly, worse, patiently. "Grief makes patterns out of pain," he said. I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. If the police needed proof, I would find proof. Rebecca had always backed things up. Receipts, photos, notes. She was careful because Dad had trained us to be careful, so I went to her apartment. Her place still smelled like lemon cleaner and the lavender tea she drank at night. Her sweater was folded over the back of a chair. A coffee mug sat in the sink. That was when I broke, not at the funeral, not in the basement. There, in her quiet kitchen, looking at the ordinary evidence that my sister had expected to come home. I cried until my throat hurt. Then I wiped my face and searched. Her laptop was gone. That was the second thing. Her phone had been taken by police, but her laptop should have been on her desk. It wasn't. I opened drawers, closets, the cabinet where she kept old tax records. Then I found her planner. On the page for the day she died, she had written one sentence. "Ask Dad why Caleb signed it." Caleb. Our father's name was Richard. I didn't know anyone named Caleb. Under that sentence was a phone number. I called it from my car because I didn't want to be in Rebecca's apartment when a stranger answered. An older man picked up on the fourth ring. "Hello? My name is Anna Whitaker," I said. "I'm calling because my sister wrote down your number before she died." Silence. Then his voice changed. "Was your sister Rebecca?" My hand tightened around the phone. "Yes," he exhaled slowly. "I told her not to dig. What did she find?" Not over the phone. Those words again. I drove 2 hours to meet him at a diner off the highway. Caleb was in his 70s, with a lined face and hands that looked like they had spent a lifetime fixing engines. He sat in the last booth with coffee he hadn't touched. When I slid in across from him, he looked at me like I was a ghost. "You look like your mother," he said. I had heard that my whole life, but from him it sounded like an accusation against the dead. "How did you know her?" He folded his hands. "I was the mechanic who inspected her car after the crash." The diner noise seemed to drop away. "You signed something?" I signed the official report saying the brake line failed. "And did it?" His eyes filled with shame. "No." I stared at him. He looked down. "Your father came to me the night before the report was due. Said he had 2 little girls who needed their mother remembered kindly. Said if the truth came out, your family would be destroyed." "What truth?" Caleb swallowed. "The brake line was cut." For a second, I couldn't understand the words. Cut, not worn, not failed, cut. Who cut it? I didn't know. But Dad did, Caleb's silence answered. I gripped the edge of the table. "Why would he cover that up?" He finally looked at me. "Because your mother was leaving him." I drove home with both hands locked on the steering wheel. Mom had not died in a random accident. Someone had cut her brake line. Dad had known. Dad had paid or pressured a mechanic to lie, and Rebecca had found the file proving it. That answered one question. It created a worse one. If Dad covered up Mom's murder, who was he protecting? For the first time in my life, I went through my father's bedroom without feeling guilty. His dresser drawers smelled like cedar and aftershave. His closet still held pressed shirts in plastic sleeves. Everything about him looked orderly, respectable, controlled. That made me angrier. Bad men should leave messes. Dad left labels. I found Mom's old address book in a box under his bed. Most names meant nothing. Then I saw one circled in red Simon Vale. Beside it in Dad's handwriting was one word, threat. I searched the name online. Simon had died 15 years earlier, but an old local article identified him as a family attorney. Not criminal, not violent, a family attorney. The next morning, I went to the courthouse and requested old records under my mother's name. At first, the clerk told me there was nothing. Then she paused. "There is a sealed custody-related filing from 26 years ago." "Custody?" I asked. She looked at the screen. "It was withdrawn before hearing." My mouth went dry. "Who filed it?" She turned the monitor slightly away. "I can't release sealed details without a court order, but I already knew enough. Mom had been leaving Dad, not just leaving, taking us. That was the midpoint where everything inside me shifted. Until then, I had thought Dad covered up Mom's death because he was ashamed of something. Now I saw the darker shape underneath. Mom had tried to escape him, and after she died, he got exactly what he wanted. Us. I drove to Aunt Ruth's house that afternoon. She opened the door, saw my face, and said, "You found Caleb." I stepped inside without being invited. "You knew." She closed the door slowly. "I knew parts." "Did Dad kill Mom?" Her face changed. Not shock, exhaustion, that was worse. "Your father loved control," she said. "That is not an answer. He loved your mother until she stopped obeying him." I felt sick. "Did he cut the brake line?" Ruth looked toward the window. "I don't know. Did he tell you she was leaving?" "Yes." "Did he tell you she filed for custody?" Her eyes flicked back to mine, so that was new. Good, I had found something she didn't know. "What did Rebecca find?" I asked. Ruth's jaw tightened. "You need to stop. My sister is dead?" She fell. "No, she found a file and then she died. Her laptop disappeared, the file disappeared, and you told me some doors should stay closed." Ruth looked suddenly old. "Because people keep dying around that door." The room went silent. "People?" I asked. She pressed her fingers to her lips like she could force the word back in. Then she said, "Your mother had a witness." "What witness?" "A neighbor, Mrs. Bell. She saw your father in the driveway the night before the crash, kneeling beside the car." I stopped moving. "What happened to her?" She moved away before the inquest. Moved away? Ruth's eyes hardened. "She was paid. Threatened. Both, probably. Your father handled problems quietly." I wanted to hate her. I did hate her. But I also saw fear sitting in her shoulders like it had lived there for decades. "Why didn't you help Mom?" Ruth flinched. Then she whispered, "Because I thought he would only scare her. I never thought he would actually do it." There it was. The family disease, everyone knew enough to fear him. No one knew enough to stop him. Or maybe they did, and stopping him would have cost too much. I left Ruth's house with one new name and a rage so clean it almost steadied me. Mrs. Bell was dead too, but her son still lived in town. His name was Owen, and he ran a small appliance repair shop. When I told him who I was, he went pale. "My mother kept something," he said. He took me into the back office and unlocked a filing cabinet. From the bottom drawer, he removed a yellow envelope. "She told me if anything ever happened to your family, I should give this to one of the daughters." My throat closed. "One of the daughters?" He nodded. "She said your mother loved you girls more than anything." Inside the envelope was a photograph, blurry, taken through a window, but clear enough. My father was kneeling beside Mom's car in the driveway. The hood was up. The date stamped in the corner was the night before she died. Behind the photograph was a handwritten note from Mrs. Bell. I saw Richard working on the car at 11:40 p.m. I heard him say, "You won't take them from me." I had to sit down. For the first time, I had proof that was not a feeling, not grief, not suspicion. Proof. But there was one final question. If Rebecca found this trail who took her file, Dad was dead, he couldn't have pushed her. He couldn't have stolen her laptop. Someone living had protected him. I got the answer from Rebecca herself. 2 days later, her phone was released by police. There was no file on it, no photos, no notes. Whoever had taken her laptop had probably wiped everything important. But they missed one thing, a deleted voice memo. I restored it with trembling hands and pressed play. For a few seconds, there was only static and movement. Then Rebecca's voice. "I'm recording this because I don't trust her." My body went cold. Her footsteps echoed. Then another voice spoke. "Aunt Ruth, you have no idea what your father was capable of," Rebecca said. "Then help me." "I am helping you. I'm telling you to destroy it." "No, your father is dead. Your mother is dead. What good does this do?" "It tells the truth." Then came a sound like papers being grabbed. Rebecca shouted, "Give it back." Ruth said, "I protected this family for 26 years. "You protected him." A scrape, a gasp, then Ruth's voice, low and furious. "You think your mother was innocent. She was going to take you girls and ruin him." Rebecca said, "He murdered her." "No," Ruth snapped. "He saved what was his." The next sound was sudden, a thud. Rebecca cried out, then another thud, lower and heavier. After that, silence. I listened to it once, then again. Then I called the detective and said, I have proof. Ruth was arrested the following morning. She did not confess at first. She said Rebecca had slipped. She said the recording was misleading. She said she had only gone to Dad's house because she was worried. But when police found Rebecca's laptop hidden in Ruth's attic, along with the missing file, the story cracked. The file contained everything: Caleb's original inspection notes, copies of Mom's custody filing, Mrs. Bell's statement, a letter Mom had written to Simon Vale saying she was afraid Richard would hurt her before he let her leave, and one final page, a letter from Dad to Ruth written 6 months before he died. If the girls ever find out, destroy what remains. They loved me. Let them keep that. I read that line until the words blurred. They loved me, as if love were something he owned, as if our memories belonged to him more than the truth belonged to us. Ruth eventually admitted she met Rebecca at the house after Rebecca called her in a panic. Rebecca had wanted to go to the police. Ruth tried to take the file. They struggled near the basement door. Ruth said she did not mean to push her. Maybe that was true. Maybe it wasn't. But she left my sister at the bottom of those stairs. She took the file. She took the laptop. Then she stood at Rebecca's funeral and warned me to leave the past alone. That was not panic. That was a choice. The case against my father could never go to trial because he was dead, but the truth did. It went into police records. It went into court filings. It went into the mouths of people who had once called him devoted, honorable, heartbroken. Ruth pleaded guilty to manslaughter and evidence tampering. At her sentencing, she looked back at me only once. I thought I would feel victory. I didn't. I felt older. But when it was my turn to speak, I brought 2 photographs. One of my mother holding me and Rebecca on the front steps, both of us in crooked ponytails. One of Rebecca laughing at her kitchen table, alive and bright and unaware that the truth she found would cost her everything. I told the judge, my father did not just kill my mother, he stole the story of her life, and my aunt helped him keep it stolen. My sister died trying to give it back. My voice broke then, but I finished. I can't bring either of them home. But I can make sure no one in this family ever calls silence love again. Afterward, I went to the cemetery. For the first time, I stood at my mother's grave and did not repeat the lie. No bad breaks, no rainy accident, no tragic mistake, just the truth. You tried to save us, I whispered. Then I placed Rebecca's photo beside her stone. She found you. The wind moved through the grass. For 26 years, my father had been the only one allowed to tell the story. Now he was gone. Ruth was gone. Rebecca was gone too, and that wound would never close. But the lie was gone with them. And for the first time since my sister called me whispering from our father's house, I understood what she had really found. Not a file, not a secret. A way back to our mother. And I would spend the rest of my life making sure we never lost her again.